Sarah, you could cover that story. We'll talk to her later on in the bulletin. Now, it's good news for the management, staff and students of the University College Hospital in Ibadan, where after about 4 months of total blackout, electricity has finally been restored to the hospital. TVC News learned from a source at the hospital that power supply was finally restored around 6 p.m. on Wednesday to clinical areas alone. We understand residential and commercial areas are still left out. This development is coming after the intervention of Minister of Power Adeyeye Dissects UCH on the matter a few days ago, leading to Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company agreeing to reconnect power. For more on this, I'm joined by electricity market specialist Adetunji Adeyeye. He joins me on the news this hour. Mr. Adeyeye, thanks for joining us. Lots of concerns about happenings in that area of Ibadan. Beyond the intervention from the minister, let's talk about how sustainable this really is. When you consider the kind of impact this huge debt has on business of electricity distribution companies.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Nigerians. I must start by first commending the Honorable Minister of Power immensely for his very altruistic intervention, not only in the case of Ibadan UCH, but the same thing in Lut, the same thing Benin for Benin Teaching Hospital. You see, the persistent accumulation of non-payment of electricity by government institutions, which include military barracks, police formation, MDAs, is not sustainable, and it has very sad and real impact on the power sector in Nigeria. And of course, we all pay a price for it. You know, if you recall, the electricity collection that this could do is actually to pay upstream for money for electricity that they buy directly from IBEDC, the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company, who is the wholesaler. And IBEDC, in turn, also pay this money to the generation companies who generate this electricity. The generation company also, in turn, then pay to the gas supplier who supply gas for our generation. The bulk of electricity generated from gas. So when MDAs, particularly military and police formation departments of agents of government don't pay, it creates a very bad liquidity crisis and cash flow management that impact all of us. It impacts on the type of service, the quality of service we'll get, because the discos will not be able first to even pay for their payment obligation upstream, let alone to even pay for the capex that they need to improve.
Absolutely, Mr. Adeyeye. And that's a known fact because it's a regular problem with government institutions as regards paying. With the cost-reflective tariff, we've seen some measure of improvement because it is pay as you go, right? And there is no form of estimation in some areas, you know, at least there are more people now with prepaid meters. Is it not as simple as get these government institutions prepaid meters? Is it that difficult to do?
Well, it's not that straightforward because, again, same MDAs would argue that they don't want meters for security reasons. You can imagine if hospitals would have prepaid meters and they would argue that, well, if we don't manage, and usually they don't manage their payment obligation. And if they don't manage that, and then, you know, in the middle of a medical intervention or surgery, electricity finishes because the prepaid meter has not been, you know, bought, or military and police formation where police don't pay for electricity in their barrack, ditto for the military. They don't want it. A lot of them don't want it, particularly the military. I used to work for Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company years back. We tried to meter a particular military barrack. They came to our office and beat the hell out of the technical boys. So some of these MDAs don't want it because they don't want to be physically responsible for their payment obligation for these electricity services. Some would argue, oh, it's also the volume of electricity that they're consuming, the type of meter they will require for those type of meter to be prepaid.
I hear you, Mr. Adeyeye. I'm wondering what you consider a sustainable solution in this situation. How then do discos recoup their money, and what do you consider the sustainable way out of this challenge?
Okay, there are a couple of solutions actually. One of them would be the direct deduction from government budget allocation. So it just means that the Minister of Finance to coordinate all electricity bills to be deducted as source of these MDAs, and parastatal. That would be the best solution. And I know this solution has been put forward before the Bureau of Public Enterprise, BP, who sit as a nominal representative of federal government and state government on the Discount Board, had worked sometime on a mechanism that, would have worked through this direct deduction. But that didn't come through. I know it's still work in progress, but if that happens, that would be the silver bullet that would solve this problem.
All right.
For MDAs to be at least responsible for their payment of bill. But there's one particular solution that is dear to my heart, that I've pushed for it at different forums. This is what I call the legislative and regulatory enforcement. I think it is high time the National Assembly enact a law that mandates payment of electricity bills by MDAs that is attended by criminal sanction if such MDA is not done. Maybe if they don't do it, that is also that can lead to budget cut of such MDA. If you have that kind of law, I think it may change culture, because essentially it's a culture problem here in Nigeria. If you look to the sub-region, the West African neighbors, Cotonou, Togo, Ghana, they don't have as much electricity as we have. The electricity is higher, but they pay. They pay because they've had this culture of payment responsibility. In Nigeria, I think people don't just want to pay, both personal and some MDs, and that has been our case. So if we could have a law that enforces, that makes it criminal, I think that would possibly even change attitude almost instantly.
Absolutely. Sounds fantastic. Good place to leave it. I've been speaking with electricity market specialist Adetunji Adeyeye. Thank you so much for talking to us.